The sun rose slow on a broken town. Factories closed, machines shut down. Promises made, but none were kept. Dreams turned to dust while the people wept. 90 days of fleeting chance, a lifeline lost in a reckless dance. The clock ran out, now it's too late. Unemployment's the cruelest fate. The tariffs came, they hit like a storm. Families braced to keep their homes warm. A pause was given, a moment to act, but the time was wasted, that's a hard fact. 90 days of fleeting chance, a lifeline lost in a reckless dance. The clock ran out, now it's too late. Unemployment's the cruelest fate. Leaders spoke with words so grand, but their hollow deeds we can't withstand. The people begged, the people cried. Now hope's a stranger on this side. Misery's knocking, poverty's near, a future clouded by doubt and fear. If only they'd fought to make things right, we wouldn't be lost in this endless night.
I've been divine. I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
Good afternoon, folks. Welcome back. Sunday, July 13th, 2025. This is Colonel Chris Wyatt, retired U.S. Army in central Pennsylvania with your daily dose, your daily injection, your protection against propaganda, hysteria, outright lies, and misleading statements from the corrupt media and the corrupt politicians around the world. Welcome back to the program. You know, I don't usually jump on a bandwagon. Thank you, Debbie Busman, for upgrading your membership to Platoon Leader. Oof, that's awesome. Thank you for that. Actually get a little bit of coin from that. I don't often jump on the bandwagon, but I have to say that I did this time because this is something of great interest to me. A year after the attempted assassination of President Donald Trump, 1 year ago today, in Butler, Pennsylvania, still no information from the federal government, still a cover-up. Even Trump's own government now hiding the information from us. Why haven't we learned more? I know people are fascinated by the Epstein files, but I'm much more fascinated about how Joe Biden's corrupt Secret Service held classified information from the agents in the field of a credible threat to President Trump on the day of the Butler assassination attempt, not the assassination attempt, but another attempt. They held that credible information, which led to a downgrade, and more people were sent from the Secret Service to protect Dr. Jill Biden in nearby Pittsburgh that day, rather than protect the President of the United States. Joe Biden's corrupt administration, one can only surmise, intended for Donald Trump to be assassinated. Well, I don't usually jump on the bandwagon, but this book has been released. Trump himself endorsed it. That's not why I bought it. There we go. There we go. Butler. The Untold Story of the Near Assassination of Donald Trump and the Fight for America's Heartland by Selena Zito, a journalist who was present that day on the stand as the bullets fired. 8 rounds before a Secret Service sniper managed to stop that guy. People so wrapped up in Epstein and this perverse obsession with pedos. I don't know why you like pedos so much and what people want to know about that, when the real issue here is the corruption of the Biden regime that Pam Bondi needs to get on top of. So I don't usually buy these things. It's quite pricey now for books. It's ridiculous what they want to charge people for books. The cover price of this is $29. I think I paid $26 for it, which wasn't much of a bargain. I don't usually pay that much for a hardback, especially when it's only a couple hundred pages long. But this one is of note, so I bought it. This is what I bought. Yeah, where's the information on the attacker? Why did the Secret Service? We now know that the Secret Service kept intelligence provided by the U.S. intelligence community to the Secret Service that there was a credible threat on the life of Donald Trump. I suspect that credible threat, without any further information, reading the tea leaves, was related to an Iranian fatwa against President Trump. But I do not know. I cannot confirm that. But the point is that they had a credible threat that the Senate has now informed us of that they did not share with that team 10 days before the assassination attempt. On the 3rd of July, they had a credible threat that on the 13th of July, there would be an attempt on the president's life, and they did not tell the team responsible for it. Not only did they endanger the life of the president of the United States, but every spectator, the thousands of people who showed up that day, and all of the employees of the Secret Service who put their lives on the line. This is unconscionable. This is a bigger cover-up than the cognitive decline of demented Joe, diaper-wearing Joe Biden. This is the real scandal. Screw Watergate. Screw Iran-Contra. Screw, lying about an intern, having fellatio. This is the cover-up. This is the biggest cover-up in American history. What else is it, folks? What else is it? Why do we know nothing? Why is the government taking no action? You worried about Epstein? I'm worried about what they tried to do to the President of the United States. Most of the information is classified. Not the name of the shooter, not his home, not his motivation, not the lack of understanding of what happened, not his trail that day. That's not classified information. The information about the credible threat to the president was classified. But Secret Service agents have classification release. They have security clearances. All right, let's do a poll here before we get into the news. Okay, start a poll. Okay, Ramaphosa will do what to Mchunu? Mchunu. Okay. Okay, nothing. By the way, does the keyboard sound better? I replaced it. All right, so there's a poll there, folks. Feel free to vote in that poll if you like. Don't worry, after this, you'll be redirected to our broadcast on Cyril's family meeting. We'll be covering that. And then later in the day, it's also the refugees. So, yep, lots coming your way. Lots coming your way. People are stuck in Epstein. We should concentrate on things closer to them and do things that are more important for human rights. Yep. Ramaphosa will talk a lot of crap. Apparently not. It's disinformation. Who is Adam David, and what is Adam David saying in my chat? You all keep your address. There he is, Adam. No, Gweda Matash was not arrested by Interpol. Where do you hear that at? Where did you hear that at? Where did you hear that at? Yes, Ingrid, people's priorities are messed up. The President of the United States was nearly assassinated, altering world history. The death of Epstein does not alter world history. The death of Epstein does not change the fate of nations. The actions of Epstein, while vile, repulsive, criminal, and horrific, do not change the fate of a nation. The attempted assassination of Donald Trump changes history. People need to get their heads out of their backside and focus on what matters here. These so-called MAGA supporters, people like Jack Probisek and Laura Loomer, who proclaim to care about this country, have their heads so far up their asses worried about Epstein that they're missing the forest for the trees. We need to understand how this corrupt government was able to censor Americans by using proxies at Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and how this corrupt government was able to cordon off the Capitol building for 9 months in an army of occupation, misusing our National Guard to prevent American citizens from accessing the halls of Congress, which is their right. How this corrupt government forced people to get injections. How this corrupt government stole from people, imprisoned people for trespassing as convicted felons. This is where the attention needs to be. The prosecution of Comey, Peter Strzok, John Brennan, and all these corrupt politicians. That's what needs to be focused on, not Epstein. Epstein is not that important. Why you're so worried about Epstein shows a bizarre obsession with Epstein. Promised, he promised. Well, a lot of things were promised. They aren't always delivered. Promised me a wall the last time. Promised me a wall last time. Didn't get it. Only got a partial building of a wall. Things don't always happen. So you can't hold people accountable for everything if they're honest and they try. Retro Western Cape. No, it's not obvious, Retro Western Cape. How did they contort? How did people who taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution sit by and allow this to happen? I can tell you that many times in my career, I did not sit by. I did not tolerate people breaking the rules, breaking the law. And I reported them, and I investigated them, and we prosecuted those who did it. So I don't want to hear it's obvious how they did it. It isn't obvious to me. Just like Abu Ghraib wasn't obvious to me. I didn't see how in the hell the army could run a prison and behave in that fashion. The army that I was a part of. I've never seen that. Never seen that. What leadership failure took place that allowed that abomination to occur? That disgrace and that black stain on the reputation of my army. It wasn't obvious to me. In fact, I didn't believe it initially. I found this must be media nonsense, given the hysteria at the time. So it isn't always obvious. How they did it is the question, so it can be prevented from happening again. When the U.S. Army spied on American citizens in the 1960s by attending rallies, Students for Democratic Society, SDS, at Cal State Berkeley, and then we also had Martin Luther King's campaign infiltrated by the FBI, the CIA, and the Army. What the hell is the Army doing spying on American citizens? It's not its role. Thank you, Dragon. And as a consequence of the church hearings, the Army was pulled back, and we had constraints put on us. And that's the Army that I grew up in, the Army with those constraints, which, to be fair, were oppressive at times and didn't allow us to properly do our job as intelligence personnel. However, they were necessary because of the abuses of the past. So, it isn't necessarily obvious. The mechanisms, the methods, the way that they've gone about this matters. And by the same token, this applies right now to South Africa. The situation of the police minister, Senzo Mchunu, who we're going to talk about in just a moment, who we're going to talk about all day today. Senzo Mchunu and the allegations against him, which are more damning. More information surfaced today from the Daily Maverick. More information about a rifle. This is not good for Mchunu. We will see what happens. So Mchunu has asked for a leave of absence. That's not a good sign. He's only been accused of something for 3 or 4 days and he's already asked for leave of absence. That's not a good sign. If he'd been under pressure for 2 or 3 months and said, I can't do my job, I got to step aside, but he's been under pressure for a couple of days and you asked for a leave of absence, that's a very, 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 very bad sign. Now, the man is entitled to due process and isn't until proven guilty, but he is entitled to that. He's entitled to that. Exactly, Charles. Just like the FBI interference in the elections, just like the Secretary of State of Maine. Who remembers her name? That scumbag should be charged for blocking Trump from appearing on the ballot. And Colorado. These evil, evil people have no authority to do this. Had to be overruled by the Supreme Court. This lawfare against legitimate president. Why? Because they didn't want this situation where we're kicking out 30 million criminals who are giving them congressional districts. Thank you, Sean. Giving them congressional districts they're not entitled to, because the idiotic way the census is done is not based on American citizens, it's based on population. Not the population of American citizens, but the population. So when you flood New York with criminal alien invaders, when you flood Florida with criminal alien invaders, they get more representatives based on the population, not based on the Americans. That's what this is all about. I don't know if the Iran will worsen today, Rooster. It just depends. It's probably going to be a big nothing burger. Or if he does sack Mchunu, it might rattle the markets. But the rand is being held artificially high because the dollar sucks right now. The dollar sucks because of the deficit and because of the high interest rates. which is ironic. You'd think that people want to flock to the dollar, be able to make 4.5% off of the prime lending rate, but that's not the case. It's actually the other way because the economy is healthy. And so, anyway, it's counterintuitive. If you're typing in all caps, you will be removed. You don't get to type in all caps on my channel. Only my moderator does that. If you're unfamiliar with that rule, you've now heard a warning. All right? Your text will be removed, and if you repeat it, you'll be blocked. I realize it's probably not intentional. All right? Minister Nkabani received a letter from Ramaphosa not to fly to China. Really? Kumbutsu Nkabani. Lotso Dueo, when did she receive that letter? And where did you find that information at? That's very interesting. Thank you, Lotsa Dilueo. Tell us about that. Oh, Fabian, Senzo is just the start. There are plenty of corrupt ANC politicians. Yep. Well, I think that it's just a matter of time before the ANC decides that Cyril Ramaphosa is just too much dead weight and that the NEC tells him to step aside. Arctic's got the trigger finger ready. What's the bet to be late? It should have been 25. Yeah, it should have been 25 to the dollar, easily. Yep. Given the tariffs. Given the tariffs are coming. She was stopped at the airport. Wow. Is this in the news? This was in the news when I researched the news a couple hours ago. Let me go and look if it's on Cockprot 24. No, it's not on Cockprot 24. Yeah, Jasper Visa admits he let the team down. Indeed. Headbutting. Stupid decision. Supposed memory of a lifetime. He cocked it up. All right, how are we doing here? Nothing. It seems to be the majority saying nothing is going to happen. Yep. It's in the news. Where is it in? Okay, guys, thank you. It's in the news. Where in the news? Okay, where? There's Daily Maverick. There's IOL. There's News 24. There's there's so many news. Where in the news? SABC. What? Okay, you keep talking about Montasha's arrest. What arrest? Gwede Montasha. Where are you guys getting this from? Twitter? This is nonsense. Where are you getting this nonsense from? It's a freaking YouTube channel. Stop believing bullshit you hear from people on YouTube. Don't know what they're talking about. There is no arrest. What? Okay. Stop. It was on News 24. What is on News 24? Incomplete sentences are useless to me. It's in the news. That's useless. This is useful. Gwede Montasha was arrested. It appeared today in News 24 on their website. That's helpful. Okay? All right. If you're trying to help, be helpful. Gunsha says pattern response is delaying tax maximum rich and the few. Luckily, his reign is towards the end of their. Yep, it is towards the end. Yeah, guys, you gotta, if you're gonna help, and I appreciate the help, you gotta give me a full sentence here. Times Live has an article. Okay, Rooster, that's a partially helpful thing. Times Live has an article. I presume that's about Gwede Montasha's arrest, not about the flight. And I'm on Times Live. No. Botswana is higher ranked than a story in South Africa. Nothing here. Nothing here. Nothing here. I have a subscription to Times Live, so you don't have to have one. Nothing here. Let's go to South Africa page specifically. Respect, sir. Thanks for all you do. Kind heart. Thank you, Pete Von Furen, for this 140 rand. Nothing here. Police on the hunt for two heartless ruffians. That's yesterday's news. There's nothing here, guys. I don't know where you're getting this stuff from. Yeah, which fake news channel? Thank you. Thank you. Lana says breathe. I am breathing. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to talk. Thank you. Times Live. Thank you very much, Rooster. That's helpful. Times Live. Okay, Gwede Montasha stopped. Okay. Let's search for Gwede Montasha there. I'm doing what I'm doing instead of doing the news here because this is actually a big deal. Okay. Okay, I do a search for Montasha, and the only thing shows up is 3 days ago. Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'll only try Gwede. Okay, let's see what comes up there. 17 hours ago. Nope. No, there's nothing here in Times Live that I can find. See, this is the problem with these websites. Yeah, Psycho Billy. That's ridiculous. He hasn't bought Harley Davidson. Report says that McBeast Jonas in South Africa and can't enter the White House. Well, that's two separate things, Sandra. He's in South Africa. Wait. He's in the USA? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. VSA. You said VSA. Sorry, I thought it said RSA. All right. Okay. Old headlines. Yeah, I think you guys are reading old nonsense. All right. Let's get to the actual news. Okay. I can't sit here and chase down rumors and innuendo and myths. I believe the gentleman who said it was on Times Live, but I can't find it. I'm on Times Live. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think people are just making stuff up. Not my audience, but the stuff you're finding online. Let's get to the news, folks. Be sure to hit that like button. How are we doing on likes? Have we got anybody liking the program? Let's see. We got 483 likes. Got a lot more people need to like this. And thank you all for showing up on Sunday. Those of you who aren't here, the number's a little bit higher today. Good to see you again. Right, let's get to the news. And 708 votes in the poll already. John Peters gave 7 rand. Thank you for the super chat. That's your first super chat. Appreciate that. But for the news, let's get on to that and do the analysis of the news for today. Quite a bit. As always, I pull stories from South Africa, around the continent, all over the world, and of course the United States, which is where we wrap up our news broadcast each and every day. So, Mchunu smoking guns, how 2 firearms could expose South Africa's colluding cops, a drug cartel, and high-profile murders. Mchunu has really put a spanner in the works for Cyril Ramaphosa. This story by Karen Dolly. I don't think I've ever seen a story from Karen Dolly before. A ballistic report allegedly linking an AK-47 and a pistol to a Transnet corruption cover-up murder and the shootings of high-profile public figures add weight to the KZN Police Commissioner's claims of a criminal octopus with tentacles reaching deep into key institutions, including law enforcement itself. Ladies and gentlemen, this sort of corruption would explain why, in July of 2021, police crime intelligence had no impact whatsoever in averting, preventing, addressing, or predicting the riots that occurred in KwaZulu-Natal and later also in Gauteng, particularly in Soweto. I predicted this chaos on the 29th of June when Jacob Zuma was convicted of, what he was convicted of? I forgot now. Failure to, obstruction or whatever. He was convicted by the Constitutional Court and sentenced to prison in South Africa, and I predicted there was going to be chaos, but I thought it would occur in Conless, so I was wrong about that. It actually began at the Mooi River Travel Plaza, at the toll plaza. That's where it all began. So this rot goes back way deep. The police did nothing to stop this. They were unprepared, and it had to be willful negligence, is what I said at the time, and this level of corruption would explain it was willful negligence. Well, Pretoria's Sangoma predicts cabinet reshuffle from Mchunu. Ladies and gentlemen, this story from the IOL. The Independent Online is running stories about Sangomas making predictions. Well, my goodness. Thank goodness we have this. Contempt of court. Thank you, guys. Contempt of court. A brain fart there. Contempt of court. Contempt of Constitutional Court. A Sangoma. Are you ready for a Sangoma has made a prediction that there will be a cabinet reshuffle. All right, we can end the poll, folks. We can end the poll. A Sangoma has said that it's going to be a reshuffle. So this learned Sangoma, who clearly has cut his bones at UCT or at Stellenbosch with a doctoral dissertation on predictions, this Sangoma says that it will be a cabinet reshuffle. The Truth Channel says, Truth Untold, which is a fake YouTube AI-generated channel, claims Montage the rest of they generate fake stuff on a daily basis. And why are they allowed to broadcast? See, I mean, they're allowed to have a YouTube channel, and I get accused of waving a firearm when I didn't even have a firearm. I've never put a firearm on air here. In fact, I have an interview that I didn't put on here just because we showed the rifle that was used to assassinate Kennedy. An interesting interview I did with my friend, and we haven't put on because we're fearful of YouTube. But a Sangoma, ladies and gentlemen, thank goodness for that. Are we supposed to take this media outlet seriously? A Pretoria-based Sangoma claims President Ramaphosa will not suspend and battle Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, but will instead implement a broader cabinet reshuffle. Sully Matabula, known as Mukulu Masalela from Mamelodi, said his bone-throwing reading shows that Ramaphosa will opt to assign Mchunu. The bones are saying that Ramaphosa will not suspend. Is this serious? Ladies and gentlemen, is this for real? I got to save this page. I mean, this is what passes for journalism in South Africa? You're quoting a Sangoma? Are you serious? Oh, we're quoting Sangomas now. Seriously. This is unbelievable, man. I cannot believe it. Look, I mean, if that's the level of journalism, I mean, I can be forgiven for this. I mean, I can be forgiven for doing this in the middle of my news broadcast, interrupting my news broadcast with the following, folks. If IOL relies on Sangomas tossing the bones, well, then I can be forgiven for the following. Yeah, it's the Kingston edition.
To the left, Bunny's on the scene. First so clean, move sharp, he's mean. Eyes like fire, trolls start to quake. Mess with the bunny,
big mistake.
Trigger off, bunny, protector of peace. Dropping through the chaos, never on a leash. Trolls come lurking, but they can't pretend. The bunny's here and it's the bitter end. Bugger off, bunny, protector of peace. Dropping through the chaos, never on a leash. Trolls come lurking, but they can't pretend. The bunny's here and it's the bitter end. Connell's right hand and ear standing tall. One thumb from the foot sends him through the wall. Carrots in the pocket, wisdom in his paw. Trolls see the bunny, drop their jaw. Bounce, 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 the rhythm don't stop. Trolls try to climb but the bunny's on top. Guarding the garden, defender of the land. The bugger off bunny with the master plan. Bugger off bunny. Jumping through the chaos, never on a leash. Trolls come lurking, but they can't pretend. The bunny's here and it's the bitter end. Swift as a shadow, silent in the night. Trolls meet the bunny, then they take flight. Ears like antennas, catching every sound. The bugger off bunny, king of the ground.
Oh yeah, Kingston edition, it's the Bugger Off Bunny. If the IOL can report from Sangomas, we can bring you the Bugger Off Bunny. Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. I must confess that a Sangoma told me I would reach 100,000 subscribers. Ladies and gentlemen, decolonizing the news each and every day at the Independent Online. Are you serious? Are you serious? Are you serious? Look, nothing against Sangomas. Nothing against traditional healers. Traditional healers in the Ikung community, the Basarwa, the Bushmen, have had a tremendous impact on the health and welfare of the Bushmen, the traditional healers. No slight against traditional healers, Sangomas. But you turn to a Sangoma to find out if Ramaphosa is going to take action against Senzo Mchunu, and okay, fine, go find out. But you put that in the news? We lost 100 people because I played the music. Good riddance. Good riddance. If you can't take a joke, then piss off. Oh my goodness. Honestly, it's Sunday, folks. Senzo Mchunu, Ramaphosa's tough options to deal with the minister. Yes, rough options to deal with the minister. Well, Ramaphosa has lots of options. Sack him, get him investigated, charge him criminally. That's what should be happening if he did it. If he did it. Lieutenant General Nanla Mkwanazi accused Mchunu of dissolving the task force investigating syndicates linked to political murders, raising allegations of corruption and political interference. Ramaphosa is considering three actions: reassigning, a voluntary resignation, or applying the ANC step-aside rule. Hey, none of them involve an investigation and criminal prosecution. Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? So, as I mentioned, Senzo Mchunu, the police minister, has asked for a leave of absence, according to the Times Live. Mchunu asked Ramaphosa to put him on leave. Political storm threatens to tear SAPS apart. SAPS is already torn apart. Under fire, police minister Senzo Mchunu has asked President Ramaphosa to grant him special leave as calls grow for his immediate removal following allegations he's associated with criminals who are in possession of state secrets. Mchunu's future hangs in the balance following an explosive media report by Mwanazi last weekend, where he alleged that the minister was interfering with his work and protecting the interest of politically connected cronies who have fallen foul of the law. Well, there you go, folks. There you go. Senzo Mchunu. This is, look, Jackie Salibe, Bakachile, Senzo Mchunu. This is just a parade of clowns, an absolute parade of clowns. Parade of clowns. Yep. Guys, I'm here, so just don't pick on all of us. Lee, mother's love, I'm not picking. I did not say, please listen to what I'm saying here. Please listen to words come out of my mouth. I said I have no disrespect to traditional healers. And I even gave an instance of traditional healers who have a major impact on the health and welfare of a group of people, the Ikung people of the Kalahari. What I said is quoting a Sangoma in a newspaper on the front page. Seriously? I might as well just, walk out in the street. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with renowned predictor, Senior Fun Wyatt, and he's going to tell us what's going to happen. Actually, well, my predictions are pretty good because I'm an analyst. But picking something up, let's go to the supermarket. Hello, excuse me, miss, what's your thoughts? Well, I do nails, and so, I thought I'd just make a prediction here. Yeah, well, we'd like to know who assassinated Brett Kebble. That's one that's never been solved, has it? That's been, 20 years now? Seems like. An 80-year-old woman gunned down in Cape Town in another mass shooting in South Africa. Among 4 people, the SAP's anti-gang unit roped in. Police are probing the murders of 4 adults who were shot and killed in Bishop Lavis on Friday night. The victims were found inside a bedroom in the house. The anti-gang unit is hunting 2 gunmen who shot 4 people dead, including 80-year-old Gogo, inside the house in Reenberg Road, Bishop Lavis in Cape Town Friday night. All the victims sustained multiple gunshot wounds, primarily to the head, chest, and upper body, with 3 of the bodies found in a double bed and the 4th on the floor. The perpetrators fled in a VW Polo. Gee, surprise, surprise, the most common vehicle used by criminals, seems. No heightened police presence, no wall-to-wall media coverage, no outrage. In the Cape Flats, violence has become so normalized that mass murder is met with a collective shrug from the government and society alike, says Brett Herron. Well, Brett, from the Good for Nothing Party, not met by me that way. Not met by me that way. Coloreds, blacks, whites, all matter. All lives matter. And I cover all these stories. If the information is available, I cover them. Farm murders, the murder of a pregnant black Tswana speaker, the murder of a UCT student, the murder of a black cattle farmer, the murder of an Indian woman at the Ayub farm, the murder of white South Africans. I cover them all because everyone's life is deserving of attention. So, Brett, you may be right about your government, but not everybody feels that way. Some of us actually care about human beings and make an effort to cover these events. So I don't disagree with Brett Herron from the Good for Nothing Party, but I disagree that nobody cares. Herman Bezeidenhout does an op-ed in Business Times. In the Business Times. Where do we go from here? The answer lies in diversification. Okay, so look, I don't want to start an argument. I don't know Herman Bezeidenhout, and he's correct. Diversification is where it starts. But diversification in South Africa's exports starts 30 years ago, not in 2025. It's too late. You're screwed. You're screwed, you're blued, and you're tattooed. Blued as in the bluing of metalwork. Yes, you're screwed, blued, and tattooed, ladies and gentlemen. If you work in the citrus industry in Citrustal or Western Cape somewhere, you are screwed if you rely on exports to America as your sole source of income. It's over. Game's over. We're not buying your oranges. I'm sorry. This is not directed at any of those people there. Love those people, but not directed to you. But if that's what your future, is that what your plan is, to sell citrus exclusively in the United States? Well, you've dug a hole you can't get out of because your party wrote checks, the ANC wrote checks that the people of South Africa couldn't pay. They couldn't pay. They've insulted America. They've undermined our national security. They've harmed our allies, our partners, our friends over and over and over again. They've cooperated with Iran on nuclear issues. This is not good. And therefore, tariffs are here and a go is gone. And if you relied on that. So he talks about diversification, but you can't diversify your market. It's like turning an oil tanker, a super tanker on a dime. It doesn't work. It takes hours to turn a super tanker around and dozens of miles. South African exporters have been reminded once again of the danger of relying too heavily on major global markets. The U.S. now has enforced steep tariffs on South African exports, bringing months of warnings to reality. This is more than a diplomatic setback. It's a wake-up call. So where do we go from here? The answer lies in diversification. For far too long, South Africa is focused on exports trading on developed markets like the U.S., Europe, and Asia. These markets are established and wealthy, but they're also becoming more protectionist, unpredictable, and saturated. It's time to pivot, and Africa must be at the center of that shift. Yeah, the problem with this is that that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Intra-African trade is a joke. It's only a small fraction of all African trade. Intra-African trade is almost non-existent. Do you know how much it costs and how long it takes to get a desk made in Kenya to South Africa? It takes 3 weeks to 3 months, and it costs 4 times as much as shipping a container from China to Cape Town or to Richards Bay or to Durban. 4 or 5 times as much, and takes 3 to 4 months sometimes. No, this doesn't work. Intra-African trade has not been facilitated by the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is a joke. It's accomplished nothing. They opened it with great fanfare during the lockdown and only opened partial agreements under it. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement has accomplished nothing. Nothing. There's nothing here. Trump says he won't oppose tariffs on fawning African leaders. This is by Jeune Afrique in the Africa Report. It's a very condescending report by Julien Pecut. Yes, Julien. He goes on to talk about how obsequious the Africans were, and basically it's just a rude and disrespecting article. And I brought it because I've got a few of these. Got a few of these things here. So they go on about Trump's meeting with African leaders. Instead of, highlighting the fact that Trump met with African leaders, something he didn't do in his first term, something Biden didn't do, they turned it into a negative thing, of course. So here we have the foreign minister of Ghana whining about America. Dear U.S., our talk is not cheap. Sincerely, Ghana Foreign Minister Ablakwa. African nations perpetually remind of what we owe. The word debt has all but turned into a whip that has raised to trigger fear and encourage compliance. Isn't it time we expand the conversation to include what is owed to us and how a path to reparative justice can be built? I'm sorry. Reparative justice? I'm sorry. It was who was it that was selling those slaves to the slave ships? Oh, yeah, it was Ghanaians. Of course, they weren't called Ghanaians back then because Ghana isn't really Ghana. That's the Gold Coast. Ghana is really further up country. They just stole the name when Kwame Nkrumah is looking for something to highlight from history. He stole the name Ghana. Historical Ghana was not located in Ghana, in case you didn't know that. He just stole the name. He just stole it. He expropriated. He appropriated. Cultural appropriation. He stole the name. Kwame Nkrumah stole the name. That's not where Ghana was at. He just okay, Ghana was cool. We could have called them, Songhai for all we know, but that sounded Chinese, so he decided not to go with Songhai. He went with but he married an Arab, so who knows? He could have gone with anything. But he stole the name. So he's upset because a U.S. Senator complained. He says Ghana will not be deterred by name-calling, denigration, false narratives, or nasty tweets and social media posts. He said, imagine my surprise to learn that in response to 2 tweets, Senator Jim Rich, a chairperson of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, posted a tweet that was tantamount to an ad hominem attack. So this is a tweet that's tantamount to an attack on America. Ghana will not be deterred by name-calling, denigration, false narratives, and nasty tweets and social media posts. I'm sorry. Which country had their government overthrown by a coup? Was it us? Oh, no, it was you. Jerry Rawlings. Yeah, remember that? Remember the people murdered on the beach? Remember all that? You've forgotten all that in Ghana. Yeah. Remember that the Ghana accrued billions of dollars of debt and we wiped it out? You deadbeats didn't pay your debt. So now you've got oil and now you're piling more debt on like record levels and you want us to forgive that again? I'm sorry. U.S. also has a debt to Ghana, one of the 2 nations that have yet to properly discuss. We don't owe anything to Ghana. You're very confused. And he talks about some of the relations with Ghana. We have a defense cooperation agreement. They were one of the first involved in the Millennium Challenge. They've also they're home to American companies who found oil and gas there. And they were part of AGOA. Well, AGOA gives you benefit. Exploring for oil and gas gives you benefit. Millennium Challenge gives you benefit. The only thing in that entire list of things that does anything for us is the Mutual Defense Agreement. That's it. Defense cooperation. That's the only thing we get something from. All the rest of that is all give. We owe you something. We owe you nothing. Nothing. We are determined to remain a model country for black dignity, emancipation, and excellence. Well, I don't really care for racism. And that's what that is, racism. Black dignity. Oh, my goodness. Unbelievable. Just nonsense. He goes on to talk about how the U.S. owes Ghana for the slave trade. We don't owe you anything. I had nothing to do with it. I profited not from it. It has nothing to do with me. I'm a historian. I recognize it. We deal with it. We avoid it from happening in the future. We address it. But that's not on me. You've got billions from us. Typical nonsense. Unbelievable. And it goes on. We've got another one of these stupid things. So here's Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman. So the Bureau of African Affairs had a meeting with the foreign minister. And so Risch said, instead of a trip to D.C., Ghana's foreign minister should focus on honoring his government's commitments to repay U.S. companies and the American taxpayers. We cannot keep subsidizing Ghana while it continues paying far larger debts to China. His point being there that they're paying the debt back to China, but they've reneged on payments to American companies and the U.S. government. That's his point. So that the Ghanaian foreign minister turns into a racist narrative and takes personal offense because he's being called a deadbeat, to which he says the following. This is very rich coming from someone who refused to engage in the same advocacy for the repayment of reparations by the U.S. for its despicable and condemnable role in slavery. I'm sorry, Sam. I'm sorry. When are Ghanaians going to pay for their despicable role in enslaving Africans and shipping them through Temu? You going to tell us about that, Sam? You will not be allowed to dictate to a sovereign country on how we conduct our foreign policy. If you need to be reminded, this is Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana, the first African nation to defeat colonialism and imperialism. Actually, you're full of shit. It's not the first country to defeat imperialism. No. That's factually incorrect. Ghana didn't defeat anything. It was granted its independence, and it occurred a year after Sudan. Sudan, 1956. Ghana, the Black Star Republic, 1957. I love how the Ghanaians constantly distort history and lie about it. I love it. Let me be clear. Those measly debts compared to what you owe us in reparations will be paid when we deem appropriate based on our prudent economic recovery plan, even though the debt was not created by the new administration. Okay. So I didn't create the $40 trillion of debt the U.S. government owes. So can we wipe it out? I get to be president and then we have no debt? So there's no obligation to pay the debts that came before to finance your infrastructure, your roads, your ports, your facilities, your electricity, your HIV. Yeah. So no one owes for that. Shut up. Stupid people should wear signs. Sam Odukozetsu Ablakwa is a stupid person, the foreign minister of Ghana. Shut your cake hole. You know what you're talking about. Stop your racist narrative. You want to owe somebody for reparations? Look in your own backyard. That's where it comes from. Those are the people who enslaved Africans and took them to ports. The people in Europe just took advantage of an existing slave trade that the Arabs and the Africans perfected 1,000 years prior. 1,000 years prior. They perfected the slave trade. So don't bring your bullshit and try to grift us for money. Don't grift us for money. You've been given more than you deserve, especially Ghana, for giving your $6.9 billion in debt, forgiven, wiped off for a promise of good governance. There's no good governance other than you had democratic transitions. Whoop-de-doo. Stupid people. Oh, and so let's continue with one more of these asinine stories. This one's in the Daily Maverick. Decolonizing data for farming. Apparently, we need to come with African perspectives on the data that's being collected from African viewpoints, because otherwise it's colonial. Stupid people should wear signs. Decolonizing data, ensuring AI reflects Africa's rich diversity in food systems and ethics. Now, I will say the following. The problem with artificial intelligence is garbage in, garbage out. So when you start putting garbage African perspectives into AI, you'll get garbage outcomes. If you put genuine data in there and don't put people's perspectives, people's viewpoints, people's opinions into there, then you can get genuine data. But they want to put perspectives in there, much like Grok is doing. And that's why it spews out anti-Semitism. Oh my goodness. From fire to fossil fuels to the fourth industrial revolution, humans have always been transforming society, says Gareth Haysom, a senior researcher at the African Center for Cities. Well, the food Indaba, which goes from 7 to 20 July, there's a big boondoggle right there if you ever saw one, has the potential impacts and opportunities of artificial intelligence in African food systems. Yep. So, Alison Polker, a research assistant in the African Center for Cities, Dr. Anisu Bakina, and a bunch of others were panelists in the discussion. Haysom introduced an Afri-Food Links project, which looks at the city food systems in hub cities like Burkina Faso and Tunisia, Uganda, Kenya, and South Africa. Yeah. The report found the world had predominantly transitioned to an urban environment by 2007. You needed a panel. You need to do a paper. You need to create a website to figure that out. My goodness, Pastor Phil Carter has been telling people that for 20 years. That is an urban environment. We are more urbanized than we are rural now on this planet. You needed this. Oh, gosh. Wow. Something that Haysom found striking. How do you find that striking? And why are you 20 years behind the curve? The rest of us pointed this out in 2000, in the 1990s, the urbanization. Of the 2.2 billion food insecure people on the planet, 1.7 billion live in urban and peri-urban areas. Not a surprise to me. So there's an absence of data from African urban areas. Well, that's because you don't do surveillance and monitoring. That's your fault, not my fault. African ethics like Ubuntu could be embodied when deploying AI. Really? Mused Makina. African ethics like Ubuntu. Could we include African genocide like Rwanda, Burundi, the DRC? Can we include African rapes, incest, chopping up albinos for muti? Can we include those Ubuntu aspects into this data? I mean, that's Africa too. I mean, you know, if we're gonna talk about what's so great, can we include those things? Extra activism. Okay, enough of that nonsense. I got one more. A Swedish member of parliament from Africa, apparently a Swedish citizen now, complains. He remembers the first day walking into the Riksdag. Riksdag is parliament. With his young daughter. They were dressed formally, badges in hand like any other MP, but a parliamentary staffer stopped them and began directing them toward the visitors' gallery. My daughter and I just stood there, shocked. Before I could even respond, one of my colleagues turned around and asked her, "Why are you sending him to the visitors area? He's a member of parliament like all of us." The staffer looked at Jallo and without switching to Swedish said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Please, you can proceed to the chambers." My colleague told her he speaks Swedish. He's a Swedish MP. And I just there holding my daughter's hand. And it was a moment of public humiliation that Jallo says cut deeply, not just for him, but for his daughter. She asked me afterwards, why did she do that? And I had to explain that in this country, racism is institutionalized. Whiteness is still seen as synonymous with Swedishness. So a white person from South Africa or Spain can be seen more Swedish than a black person. Oh my goodness. Are you frickin' serious? Sweden is a white country full of Nordic Vikings. And you show up at the parliament as a black person that's never had a black member of parliament, and the security people try to ask you a question and your feelings are hurt? Are you serious? It's not racism. It's not institutionalized racism. You're a moron, Jallo. You're a moron with an inferiority complex. Do you know how many times I've been stopped in foreign countries because of my skin color? These pathetic losers. That's not racism. It's common sense. Swedes are white, not black from West Africa. You may be a Swedish national and someone put you in parliament, but it doesn't make you Swedish. And you're the first one ever. It's not like there's 40 black people in the Riksdag. Stupid people. Well, the United Nations Food Agency is now cutting food aid to Africa. Oh, yes. Limiting operations in West and Central Africa due to funding cuts. So all the wonderful countries in the United Nations are too cheap and miserly and stingy like the Europeans to give money to the World Food Program. Unless the U.S. provides foods, everybody goes hungry. But we're the evil empire. So screw you all. World Food Program said Friday it's suspending food and nutritional assistance across crisis-hit West Africa as a result of U.S. and other global aid cuts that are grinding to a halt. President Trump's decision to cut U.S. aid and critical funding to the United Nations has left many aid agencies struggling to survive despite the worsening humanitarian crisis. Food stocks are projected to last until around September for most affected countries, according to the World Food Program. So once again, you have it. While we get shit on by the world, we provide all this food. While we get shit on by the world, we provide all this assistance. We prevent people from dying from HIV. We allow people to trade. We give people duty-free access, but we're the evil people. And only when the generosity ends is it an issue for people. Then they care. Oh, shut up. Well, Canberra is not getting the message in Australia. Down under, where they're eating Vegemite sandwiches, they're just not getting the message. Yep. The Albanese government said they would not pluck a figure out of the air and work on how to spend it. Well, our NATO allies are coughing up the money for defense, but the Australians still want a free ride. Former Prime Minister Tony Abbott is concerned that Australia has not gotten the message from Washington on defense spending. European NATO leaders promised to boost defense spending to 5% of GDP over 10 years. Australia has yet to make a similar pledge. We've recently seen Donald Trump at NATO demanding and getting an increase in NATO defense spending to 3.5% for immediate military needs and 5% when you throw in other security issues. You can't ask America to do more for your defense than you're prepared to do for your own defense, is what Abbott said. It's one place that doesn't seem to have got the message is Canberra. Well, of course not. They're freeloaders. Why would the Australians foot the cost of defense when the Americans will gladly do it? Why will the Germans, who spend 0.9% of GDP on defense, spend money when the Americans will take care of it? Well, Not until they can make money selling weapons and killing people in Ukraine do the Germans suddenly care about defense and start increasing their spending. Before that, they were happy to let Americans cover their backside for 50 years while giving all our secrets to the East German spies and the Soviets. Japan has urged China to stop flying fighter jets near Japanese military aircraft. Well, just shoot them down. Japan has demanded China stop flying fighter jets abnormally close to Japanese intelligence gathering aircraft, which it said was happening repeatedly and could cause a collision. Japan's defense ministry said a Chinese JH-7 fighter bomber flew as close as 30 meters to an electronics intelligence aircraft of the Japanese Self-Defense Force on Wednesday and Thursday. The ministry said it occurred outside Japanese airspace over the East China Sea and caused no damage to the Japanese side. China had no immediate comment, of course not, because they're warmongering bastard communists and they need to be dealt with soon before this gets worse. Well, France has blinked and they've decided to let New Caledonia become a state, but still inside the French domain. France, New Caledonia, after massive riots last year, on Saturday announced a historic accord in which the overseas territory remain French, but be declared a new state. The 13-page agreement announced Saturday calls for the New Caledonian nationality and the possibility for residents there to combine that status with French nationality. President Emmanuel Macron had called for talks to break a deadlock between forces loyal to France and those wanting independence, asking New Caledonian elected officials as well as political, economic, and civil society leaders to gather in Paris to hammer out a constitutional framework for the territory. After 10 days of talks, they agreed on the state of New Caledonia should be created. The archipelago is to retain a status within France with Caledonians who will remain French. No more referendums are planned, with the exception of the one confirming this agreement. And I say, cut them loose. They want independence, cut them loose. Turn off the tap, give them the money, let them go their own way. Yeah, that wasn't hard. United Kingdom's oldest World War II veteran has passed away at the age of 110 years old, born in 1914. Donald Rose has passed away. Britain's oldest World War II veteran, Donald Rose, has died at the age of 110. He participated in the D-Day landings on June 6, 1944, and was part of the division that liberated the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in Germany. In a statement Friday, the leader of the Erewash Borough Council in the north of England, James Dawson, announced his death, calling him a war hero. The town was privileged to count him as a resident. In May, Rose joined 45 other veterans as guests of honor in a tea party celebration hosted by the Royal British Legion at the National Memorial Arboretum to mark 80 years since Victory in Europe Day. Rose, who was born on Christmas Eve 1914 following the outbreak of hostilities in World War I, said he did not celebrate VE Day in 1945. When I heard that the armistice had been signed 80 years ago, I was in Germany at Belsen, and like most active soldiers, I didn't get to celebrate at that time. We just did what we thought was right, and it was a relief when it was over. Originally from the village of Westcott, southwest of London, Rose joined the army at age 23 and served in North Africa, Italy, and France, according to the Royal British Legion, also in Germany, obviously. He received a number of medals and awarded France's highest honor, the Legion d'Honneur. He's believed to have been the UK's oldest man, 110 years old, veteran. Born in 1914. UK police are arresting Palestinian lunatics, supporters. British police arrested scores of supporters on Saturday of a pro-Palestinian protest group that was banned under anti-terrorism legislation. Police said they arrested at least 41 people in London, 16 others in Manchester for showing support for the group Palestine Action. Campaign group Defund Our Juries said 86 people have been arrested across the UK and other protests held in Wales and Northern Ireland. Good. Officers have made 41 arrests for showing support for a prescribed organization. One person has been arrested for common assault. There you go. There you go. It's about time you start dealing with these dangerous criminals. Emmanuel Macron calls on the EU to withstand Trump's tariffs. Said the bloc should be ready to trade war after 30% tariff threat, but other EU leaders call for calm. Emmanuel Macron, the cuckold who gets pimp slapped by his wife. Well, some European World Heritage sites, new ones, including German castles. Yes, Bavarian fairy tale castles and the French Karnak megaliths among the new UNESCO World Heritage sites. And there is Neuschwanstein in all its glory. UNESCO has reviewed the applications of several new World Heritage sites, adding the Karnak megaliths in France, the palaces of King Ludwig II of Bavaria, and Minoan palatial centers in Crete to the list. So we get Neuschwanstein, which is in the photograph, Herrn Chiemsee, located in the Chiemsee, Lindenhof, located not far from Garmisch-Partenkirchen, and the Royal House at Schachen to the World Heritage List. Congratulations. Congratulations. At least 4 dead and 20 missing after a boat sank off the coast of the Dominican Republic. Dominican authorities say 17 other refugees and migrants rescued from the boat were trying to get to Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory. 4 refugees and migrants have died. 20 were missing after the boat capsized off the coast of the Dominican Republic, as Haitians and Dominicans continue to take life-threatening risks to make the crossing to what they hope is a better life. The Dominican Civil Defense Authority was quoted by the French press news agency as saying on Friday that 17 other people were rescued from the boat, which was carrying about 40 people and headed to Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory. The so-called Yola migrant boats, that's the one that ran into trouble, are constructed from wood or fiberglass and do not comply with safety regulations. Refugees and migrants, criminal aliens, pay as much as $7,000 for a one-way trip to Puerto Rico from the Dominican Republic. So, Puerto Rico is not your destination. And the island Hispaniola is split by Haiti and Dominican Republic. Haiti being French Creole and Dominican Republic being Spanish-speaking. And Dominican Republic being successful and Haiti being a basket case. And they are deporting Haitians left and right from the Dominican Republic. A federal judge has reversed the Biden-era rule that barred medical debt from credit reports. Good. Judge found that the CFPB exceeded its authority when it tried to ban medical debt. That's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is a scam created by Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas from Massachusetts, that is a data aggregating center to spy on Americans, not something to protect consumers. Yeah. A federal judge in Texas has struck down a Biden-era rule that would have barred medical debt from appearing on credit reports. On July 11th order, U.S. District Judge Sean Jordan found the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau overstepped its authority when it finalized the rule in January, 2 weeks before Trump was sworn in. Under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, credit reporting agencies are allowed to include medical debt in credit reports. So absolutely. If someone owes $1 million in medical debt, that should be considered. Well, folks, it's been 1 year since the attempted assassination of President Donald John Trump. This book was released, and I received it yesterday. A year. The government's not telling us anything, but this journalist is trying to. Secret Service discipline far too weak, says the Senate report. Secret Service's cascade of preventable failures in Butler nearly cost President Trump his life, and the disciplinary penalties that followed were far too weak, the Senate report concluded. The report released Sunday on the first anniversary of the event in Butler wrapped up with the Senate, Homeland Security, and Governmental Affairs government probe of the Secret Service's stunning failures that led to the deadly sniper attack. The committee describes a disturbing pattern of communication failure and negligence that culminated in a preventable tragedy. Not a single Secret Service agent has been fired over this. The report is yet another black eye for Secret Service, who suffered a series of scandals in recent years involving agents using prostitutes and getting into alcohol-fueled altercations in foreign countries. Another failure at the Butler rally, the Secret Service had classified intelligence about a threat to Mr. Trump 10 days before the assassination attempt, but did not share it with agents and law enforcement partners running security at the event. A recent bright spot for the Secret Service, however, was agents successfully thwarting a planned assassination. Wow. Elon Musk AI firm has apologized for its anti-Semitism. Did they use AI to apologize? XAI's lengthy apology for anti-Semitic remarks says they apologize for horrific behavior that many experience. They released a lengthy apology yesterday and said, first off, we deeply apologize for horrific behavior that many experience. Our intent is for Grok to provide helpful and truthful response for users. After careful investigation, we discovered the root cause was an update to code path upstream of the Grok bot. This is independent of the underlying language model that powers Grok. We've removed that deprecated code and refactored the entire system to prevent further abuse. Yeah. Garbage in, garbage out. AI is programmed by humans, so it's going to respond the way humans respond. Economists see lower risk of recession under Trump's economy, despite the lies being perpetrated all over. Forecasters nudge up growth and trim inflation estimates as tariffs prove less costly than expected, because your economists were all frauds. Economists expect stronger growth and job creation, lower risk of recession, and cooler inflation than they did 3 months ago. The journal's previous survey was conducted at the height of the president's threats to impose eye-watering tariffs. Well, the tariffs are still there. In fact, they're eye-watering in more ways than people realize, and the economy is humming along. Canary Mission, how the U.S. uses a hate group to target Palestine advocates. The Trump administration confirms that it's relying on a shadowy website to identify student protesters for deportation. The United States government has acknowledged its use of Canary Mission, a shadowy pro-Israeli website to identify pro-Palestinian students for deportation, sparking anger and concern by rights advocates. Activists have long suspected the administration of U.S. President Trump is gathering information from the Canary Mission website to target students. Excuse me. Long suspected? The Trump administration... February, March, April, May, June, July. The Trump administration is 6 months old. How have you long suspected? There's no long to this. Nothing is long in 6 months. Inkwell, have you read the book? Inkwell, I haven't read the book. Have you read the book, Inkwell? Have you already read this book? I haven't, so I don't know what the journalist is saying. I'll tell you if that's the case. Anyway, So on Wednesday, suspicion was confirmed with Department of Homeland Security official testified in court case challenging Trump's efforts to deport pro-Palestinian student protesters. Peter Hatch, an agent with the Immigration Customs Enforcement, said the department had assembled a specialized group dubbed the Tiger Team to work on removing pro-Palestinian college students from the country. And he was asked, you mean, someone said, here's a list that the Canary Mission has put together? And he said, yes. So this is what Heba Gowayed, a sociology professor at the City University of New York, said the government's reliance on online blacklists that post personal information to harm and intimidate activists is absurd and fascist. Canary Mission is a doxing website that specifically targets people for language that they deem to be pro-Palestinian, and therefore they've decided is anti-Semitic. Its sole purpose is to target and harass people. Why do you use a hate group to identify people for whether or not they have the right to be present in the country? Well, Heba Gowayed, what world do you live in? What fantasy world do you live in? The government has an obligation to look at everything. Look at criminal activity, look at hate groups, look at hate speech. There's no such thing. It's the evil stuff. To look at everything. And if you find information that tips you off to someone who's a problem, potential problem, you don't simply ignore it. You use other sources. So what's left out of the story is, did the U.S. government rely solely on that information? Or was it information that prompted them to look elsewhere? A government that doesn't look at this site would be more disturbing than one that looks at this site. It's not fascist. It's not absurd. It's prudent and wise. And you are just a propagandist, this New York University sociology professor. Why are we talking to a sociology professor about legal things or about terrorism? You should be talking to a national security expert or a jurist, not a sociology professor that can't walk their way out of a wet paper bag. Pete Hegseth has pulled a promotion of an admiral who featured drag shows on his aircraft carrier. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has withdrawn the nomination of Rear Admiral Michael Buzz Donnelly to lead the Navy's Japan-based 7th Fleet and a promotion of 3-star. President Trump nominated him for the position on June 18th. Secretary is thankful for Admiral Donnelly's continued service, wishes him luck in his next position. Pentagon did not confirm the reason for the withdrawal, but Donnelly's nomination could mean the end of his Navy career. It should. He was commander of USS Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier from 2016-2018 when the sailor staged Navy-sanctioned drag queen performances aboard the warship under the name Harpy Daniels. My issue is not the sailor's sexual orientation, Senator Tommy Tuberville said in a letter in 2023. The Navy's core values of honor, courage, and commitment are a great recruiting tool. An emphasis on race, sexuality, and gender is not. He's an otherwise qualified admiral who's sanctioned Navy-sponsored drag shows on the aircraft carrier he commanded. He wasn't in drag, but he allowed the gross politicization of the Navy. Enough. Exactly. Yep. So, that's the end of his career because he let people do drag shows on an aircraft carrier. Why are you doing that? What does that have to do with anything? Drag shows. Ridiculous. 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 Well, ladies and gentlemen, the United States, good news for us. We'll become less reliant on the CHICOMs for rare earth elements as we finally open a second rare earth mine. Neglecting this field for decades, the United States is finally getting its head out of its rectum. Wyoming opens a dual mine, coal for power and rare earths for everything else. Ramaphosa Resources rare earth project will extract a relatively small amount of coal, but the mine is loaded with minerals that domestic industry now imports. Tumbling out of the Bighorn Mountains, Brook Mine will be the first new coal mine to open in Wyoming in 50 years, as well as the first critical mineral and rare earth mine to open in the United States in more than 70 years. Miner Ramaphosa Resources is to produce at least 2 million tons of coal a year for electricity and extract more than 450 tons of elements annually. Wow. 450 tons. This one mine can break our reliance on China. Well, let's see. The nearest town is Ranchester, less than 10 miles south of the Montana state line, about 180 miles east of Yellowstone National Park. So there you go. Wow. So we're going to end that nonsense. President Trump. Okay. Sometimes you got to shake your head about President Trump, and this is one of them. President Trump tweeted about Rosie O'Donnell about taking her citizenship away. You can't make this stuff up, folks. You can't make this up. Let me see if I can find this. Yesterday he said, Rosie O'Donnell, hang on a second. Come on, where's the Rosie O'Donnell thing at? Oh, there it is. There it is. Because of the fact that Rosie O'Donnell is not in the best interest of our great country, I'm giving serious consideration taking away her citizenship. She's a threat to humanity and should remain in the wonderful country of Ireland if they want her. God bless America. To which somebody made a meme of Rosie sleeping on the couch, the picture of Trump in her head going, it's no longer rent-free. It's time for the bugger off buddy again. Trump says Rosie O'Donnell could lose her citizenship. Trump is considering taking away American-born moron Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship. Thank you for the super chat, Joe Cruiser. She's a threat to humanity. Because of the fact that Rosie O'Donnell is not in the best interest of our great country, I'm giving serious consideration. Oh my goodness. She responded on Instagram saying the President of the United States has always hated the fact that I see him freely as a criminal, con man, sexual abuser, liar, out to harm our nation, serve himself. And this is why I moved to Ireland. She added, he's a dangerous, old, soulless man with dementia who lacks empathy, compassion, and basic humanity. I stand in direct opposition to all he represents, the suit of millions of others. You're going to deport all who stand against your evil tendencies. You're a bad joke that can't form a coherent sentence. You're rude, disrespectful, condescending lard asses in Ireland. Keep it there. The only celebrity to follow through on a promise to leave the country. There's something seriously wrong with both of them. Definitely something wrong with Rosie O'Donnell, but there's something wrong with Trump. Don't entertain this nonsense. All right, folks, 10 non-tax things that were in the big, beautiful bill. Yeah, poor Ireland, exactly. 10 non-tax policies that were in the mega bill. First off, air traffic control. The new law provides $12.5 billion for the Transportation Department to institute long overdue reforms in the nation's air traffic control system. Yep, we talked about that previously. That's good news. Border and immigration, that includes the $150 billion for better border security immigration enforcement. That's awesome. Yep. Education. It will reduce Pell Grant eligibility for high-income students and students with full-ride scholarships. If you have a full-ride scholarship, why do you need a Pell Grant? If you have, you're going to tell me for your living expenses, get a job. If you are wealthy, why do you need a Pell Grant? Why are we paying for your education, giving you free money? A grant is free money. $7,000 a year. Man, when I got a Pell Grant, it was freaking $1,800. Now it's $7,000 a year. Wow. Wow. Medicaid and rural hospitals. Now, here's what the lies. Even the Epic Times is lying about this. Some of the changes are expected to boot millions of beneficiaries off the entitlement program while potentially impacting rural hospitals. But that's a lie. It will require puts work requirements on those who are capable of working. So that's misleading. SNAP cuts. The SNAP cuts are going to cut people who are physically capable of working from getting free food stamps. And the Trump account for newborns, I've talked about that. The Trump accounts, you can put $1,000 into it for every child between January 1st of 2025 and December 1st, 31st of 2028. Children born for that year will be eligible, but not for the initial $1,000 seed money. You can contribute up to $5,000 a year for those accounts. Money will be invested in a broad stock market index and will grow tax deferred until the account holder withdraws the benefits. You can access that money at age 25. That's awesome. And also changes the federal communications spectrum requirements. In addition to that, it defunds Planned Parenthood for 1 year. Obamacare changes and expansion of military housing and support programs. And that's what's happening there. All right, folks, we're down to 1,300. We lost a few people. I guess they didn't like the bugger off bunny, so fine. The U.S. has the world's largest known deposits of coal. All right, I'm going to end the poll. It's got 1,600 votes, and it looks like nothing is the answer. Some people think he's going to blame apartheid. What's a fair assumption there? It's a fair point. All right, folks, we've got, at the bottom of the hour, we're going to start talking about the Mchunu thing and what Ramaphosa might do. I'm not going to talk about that now, but there you have it, the bugger off bunny. We had a little fun with that, so let me save that poll result. Okay, so let me get to the chat here. Bunny time. Call those trolls out. I do, Primal Boar. Hendo can type in all caps. No, it's just because it's a Hendo thing. Only the diehards stick around. Well, that's good. That means you got 1,375 diehards and 10,000 have tuned in already for this. Thank you for that, folks. Please watch my prepared content. I make some really good videos. I do say so myself. And they haven't been getting much traction lately. Get a boat to UK, free mobile, free hotel, free transport and benefits. Exactly, Stuart. Rosie was in about 10 crap movies, and now she thinks she's an icon. Exactly. They don't cry. There's no crying in baseball. If you put Rosie, Whoopi, and Sonny Hostins in a spaceship, they'll find other life out there. In a year, they'll all commit themselves to silence. No, if you put Rosie, Whoopi, and Sonny on a spaceship and they find life on another planet, they'll call them racist. These are honorable members. That's true. No, you checked out our lieutenant colonel. I believe him 100%. Who is your lieutenant colonel? I don't know who lieutenant colonel is. Oh, we don't talk me. I'm not a lieutenant colonel. I'm a colonel. Somebody goes wrong. How they blame apartheid. Exactly. Only whites can sort out the problems in South Africa. A large portion of blacks will back them up, just like the Boer War in Angola, says Sneb 122. Conrad, Janine, Trump loves to poke at Rosie. Yeah, he does. He does. It's like, even in the presidential debate, he poked it at Rosie O'Donnell in 2016 or 20. That was so funny. Yeah, the Irish have had enough. Yeah, Rosie is pathetic. She's sad person. Please remove the poll. I did, Lana. Why are you asking me to remove the poll? I did remove it. Okay. You guys are laughing about something I said. Cal Z777 Rosie, who never heard of him. 14 rand super chat. I haven't had TV for 8 months. Wow, that's cool. Since not cool. They stole yours. Sorry to hear that. All South Africans just look for UK. What's going on with the illegal immigrants? Yep. Large portion of blacks want the same as whites. That's true. A lot of fake news the government sent out. I noticed a month ago they confused. Yep, there's a lot of stuff. Is the admiral part of the village people? In the Navy. You can sail the 7 seas in the Navy. Maintaining decorum, okay? Zanzi lends a story about Montasha. Okay, I don't know what that is, Yvette Retief. That sounds like a fake news channel. See, guys, I don't understand how so many people are hoodwinked by this nonsense. I guess I do. It explains a lot. As I said, I showed this screen the other day. I made a video, and I shared this. Let me find this real quick if it's easy enough to find quickly. It wasn't that long ago that this person shared this with me. It's a screen capture. Come on, where's it at? And I used it. There it is. Okay. So let me give you an idea just how this stuff becomes a problem, okay? This is how stuff becomes a problem. So this is a message shared in a WhatsApp group, okay? So let me show you this very quickly here. Not a WhatsApp, a personal message, not a WhatsApp. It's a personal message. So the person was talking about applying with a statement of interest to come to the States as a refugee. And this was a response from their neighbor. That's awesome, but it's only a visa. Then you have the problem when the next president comes in. If he doesn't like what was done, then he will just cancel it and send everyone back when their visas expire. Well, okay, first off, whoever wrote that, don't really care, and I don't wish to embarrass them, but shut your cake hole. You know what you're talking about. It's not just a visa. And the next president can't cancel it. But then they're going to say, but Trump is removing for the refugees from Haiti and Venezuela. No. They were illegitimately granted temporary protective status. It has expired. Trump is not renewing it. He's removing them. He's removing the people. It's temporary protective status, just like the president's emergency program for AIDS relief is not a decades-long thing. Apparently, it's become one. It's temporary, and it's been removed because the basis for them coming here is no longer true. Haiti is no longer a civil war. Go back. Venezuela's communist government is taking over. Go back. They weren't entitled to temporary protective status. It's over. And even if they were entitled to it, it's over. They are not refugees. The refugees cannot be removed because of another administration. The refugees cannot be removed because of another party. They cannot be removed. They can only be removed if they committed fraud to achieve refugee status or commit a heinous crime. But usually the heinous crime is prosecuted here and we put them in prison here if they break the law. So people that don't know what they're talking about shouldn't be talking about things. Someone wrote to me yesterday and said they talked to the neighbor and said, yeah, no, I'm applying for it. But you can't. You're not a farmer. The program is not for farmers. The program is not for Afrikaners. The program is not for white South Africans. The program is for South Africans suffering from unjust racial discrimination. Done and dusted, finished and clear. That's what it's always been. That's what I said from the outset. That's what I expected. That's what was implemented. Stop lying about it. Stop spreading misinformation. Stinky the Squid's back. How do you financially immigrate but still have property here? Very simple, Stinky. Many people own land in other countries. Millions of people around the world own land in other countries. They don't live there, but they own land there. And they own property there. Why? So you're telling me you can't have a business in a foreign country? So IBM can't own businesses in Stuttgart, Germany? But they do. I've been by the IBM factory there many, many times. You're a real man. I saw your soul feeling about the flooding. Well, thank you, Desmond. Very kind of you. Anonymous Misty. Afrikaners are a Southern African ethnic group descended from predominantly Dutch. That's not correct, Vernon. They're not descended predominantly from Dutch. That's a myth. That's a myth. Again, for the 1000th time, the Afrikaners descended largely from Germans. The Dutch were the first. Germans came consistently for a long period of time, and French Huguenots came. And also descended from Khoi, San, and some Asian. Yep, that's right. That's the fact. Check out the DNA of the average Afrikaner. Yep. The largest DNA component for Afrikaners is German, then Dutch. Funny feeling that this Epstein list is going to reappear. Who cares? The battling to get the script to Italy, get the tally up. It will probably be 7 p.m., 7-9. We'll see. If possible, I wish all whites can leave this place and continue their lives. Daniel, it's a shame. I wish that white South Africans could live and prosper in South Africa, where they've done so for 3.5 centuries. Presbyterian Church recently distributed a flyer among their members confronting white Christian nationalism. Any thoughts? Well, the Presbyterians are racist. They're racist. So that's my thoughts. I find you refreshingly reload the page, you'll get the latest figure. What's that? For the likes, it's 1,180 likes, folks. 10,806 people have tuned in for this broadcast. Please, sir, more soup, says Dylan. Yep. I financially immigrated but left 2 properties there. It's all tax paid. Exactly, Stuart. What is the story with Pam Bondi Epstein files? Libs are latching onto it and forming theories. It's not just the libs. It's the right-wingers like Jack Probisak, Laura Loomer, Alex Jones. All these others are out there screaming about Epstein. Why aren't they screaming about this? Why aren't they screaming about the Secret Service and the near assassination of Donald Trump? Why don't they want to know about this? Why isn't this at the top of their agenda? If they're real MAGA members, if they're real conservatives, if they're real patriots, why aren't they concerned about that? Not one of them has complained about that. Not one of them said a damn thing about the assassination attempt 1 year ago. Not one of them. Don't care about Epstein. Epstein doesn't change the course of world history. The assassination of Donald Trump would have. And the near assassination did change world history. He's going to tell whites to leave the country. Hey, Dory Smith is in from Nelsbrook. Yeah, Grok has been fine-tuned to a narrative. Well, all of them are, Mark. They all are. They're not thinking for themselves. When they start thinking for themselves, we got a problem. Journalist is making this, the book, says Inkwell. Did you ever answer my question? Afrikaners are true African tribe. The language was born here. The only tribe in Africa who have the name of the continent in their name. The outstanding tribe. Yeah, Michael Marks, agree with you 100%. Walter Potter, Epstein list does not exist. It's proof of cover-up and compromised officials. Are you saying it doesn't exist, or are you saying that the comment that it doesn't exist is proof of covered-up officials, compromised officials? Week 2 of being under this year's flu, okay? That's where I get my news. So tired of YouTube, chip clickbait, no nonsense, intelligent comment. Thank you very much, Armand Albertin. Okay, how much from... I don't know what you're asking there. Thank you, Uri Simon, for the 20 Rand super chat. I appreciate that. The wife that hits like a man. Yeah, it's Macron's wife. My granddad was has a scrapyard in Mafking, and the locals would bring in Arabic brass cups that they dug out of the hills around Mafking. Not our lot. Love the Arabs. They fill in you. I'm not sure what you're getting at there, Blonde Topaz, but it's not surprising because Arabs traded in their dhows along the east coast of Africa, and those goods flowed freely into southern Africa. Great Zimbabwe is one example. You'll find Arabic coins there. You'll find Chinese vases there around Great Zimbabwe because they traded with these peoples. Yep. Haoteng Rob, African American, I call myself. Well, good for you, Haoteng Rob. Or okay, Bugger Off Bunny is my favorite song, says Tame Impala. Okay. Okay, Francis Ruiz. Africa is not a race, it's a continent. If a nation is born in Europe, it's European, no different to Africa, Asian. People are named after the continent of their origin. Yep. Well, Afrikaners originated in Africa. They didn't exist before that. Joe Cruiser, thank you for the 70 Rand. Almost missed that one. Did I miss any of these super chats? Okay. How late will Cupcake be? Well, that's what we're going to find out. That's what we're going to find out. Ngabonga, we are tired too. Okay, is Ngabonga here? Where's that at? Is that a person? I don't see that person here. Freya Menzel's back. Hey, Freya. Rooster GT. I don't see that person you're commenting to. How will 30% tariff affect South Africa? It would be devastating, Stuart Lennox. It will be devastating. Your citrus economy will dry up. People in citrus style are already laying off people. They're cutting back, and it's going to have a devastating impact there. People won't be able to pay their mortgages, their bonds on their land. Banks will come looking to confiscate. Yeah, depends how long it goes before we get it sorted out. And your car industry is already feeling the effects. 25,533 cars exported to the U.S. in 2024. That's not happening in 2025. 8 p.m. It's supposed to be 7 p.m. What are you talking about? It's 8 p.m. now? Has he changed it? Ugh. Has it changed? Huh. Let's see if it changed. It's still supposed to be 7 p.m. according to this. Okay, next poll. How long will it take a cupcake to get 2 points? What's this? There's only 3 YouTube channels I trust when it comes to objective, reliable news. The Colonel, Ronaldo, and Tim Cast. Okay. Could Cyril's actions tonight lead to unrest? I don't think they will, but it's possible. Oh, you guys are predicting he'll come in 8. It's always been 8. It's dinner at 7. No, it's not. We'll await Cyril, our leader. Sawabona, says Sneb. Drama always late. It's typical Cyril to delay start if he calls family meeting off and doesn't start an hour later. Chaos Juggler, what's going on? He will be late as usual. Thanks, Colonel, for making the world aware of the injustice in South Africa and the useless ANC. They've most certainly be found out for far too long. They pull wool over the world's leaders. Yep. Well, Ramaphosa's not scheduled till 7, folks. This is the news. And after the news, we'll have the other report. So that's at the bottom of the hour. Switch over there. 1,400 people currently here. Be sure currently you have a busy live schedule today. Rapist, pup cake later, and refugees clutch as well. Huh? The report. Oh, the report. Sorry, I thought I said right. Okay. Yeah, it's like that. Just how it goes sometimes. Mchunu is Minister of Agriculture. Oh, yeah, we haven't thought about that. What if he relieves John Steenhuisen tonight? That's not going to happen. But what if he did? What if he did? Wouldn't that be something? Hey, let's do a poll. Let's see. Will. Okay, we're going to have fun with this now. Hang on, folks. Butler was covered up by BlackRock. Oh, stop, Alan. BlackRock money. Where do you get that from? All right, folks. Will he relieve one of these 4? I've given you 4 ministers in his cabinet he can look at. Difference between Ram and a hippo? 5 kg. Yes. Have you met my white minister of agriculture? Now he has 2 more white ministers. He has Barbara Creasy from the ANC, and he has Peter Groenewald from the Freedom Front Plus. He's got 3 white ministers in his cabinet. See how he reacts to what Corney Mulder has to say. You know what's missing in South Africa is the response. After Ramaphosa speaks, there should be a response from some party. We do that here. We always have a response to the State of the Nation. You don't have that in South Africa. You just have people walk out and talk to the press, but you have to have a formal response. Jenny Ramsey says, I know it is off the subject a bit. I was watching a video on stolen land with regards to Tigerberg. Yeah, well, Jenny, the PI Act has been around since the late 1990s. It was meant to prevent people from being unfairly removed from land. So we had a lot of people under apartheid, like District 6, people in Northwest who were removed from their land. And it wound up making a lot of people homeless, and that was unjust. Fair point. So they came up with the PI Act. One believes is well-intentioned, but the thing is written so poorly that it's been used by the courts to extend benefits to people who don't deserve it. So basically what the PI Act has done is it allows, the courts have interpreted to say that if someone is occupying land, you cannot simply evict them, even if they're there illegally, because they have a human right to habitation, and you can't take that habitation away from them. Now, the problem is that they allow anything to be habitation, and it undermines the rights of the legitimate property owner. This is why I won't buy anything in South Africa. Because all I have to do is be gone for a week. I come back, somebody's in my house. I can't get rid of them because I didn't remove them in a timely fashion. So I'm homeless now. I'm the property owner while they destroy my property. It's ridiculous. Yeah, so none of your options be removed. Okay, well, that's fine, Cheryl. So it's if anybody's removed, who would you remove? That's the question. None of the above is just going to talk and do nothing. He doesn't have meatballs in his spaghetti. Oh, my goodness. That's just funny, guys. All right. Okay, it's time. We're going to switch over to the other broadcast. I hope a lot of you stay with me. All right? So stick around, and you're going to be diverted or directed to that other broadcast immediately, and we'll start right away with that. Thanks for being here for the news. Be sure to hit the like button, and Ramaphosa comes up next 30 minutes. But our analysis of Ramaphosa starts in just moments. Stay here. You'll be redirected. Please join us. Thanks a lot, everybody who joined us in this chat. Cheers.